The film begins in 1995 Berlin, Germany, with a scene of a man named Michael Berg preparing breakfast for a woman, whom he spent the night with. Michael informs her that he will meet his daughter, who is coming home from abroad after a year. Here we discover that Michael is a renowned lawyer, who is divorced and has a daughter. After the woman leaves, Michael walks over to the window. He watches a tram pass by. After seeing this, he recalls his story in the film, then goes into flashback mode. When 14-year-old Michael gets home from school one day, his health begins to suddenly deteriorate. Michael starts vomiting after a short distance of walking because he is not feeling well. Hannah Schmitz, a 36-year-old woman, arrives and aids Michael in standing up. She then helps him get back home. Michael's father advises him to visit a doctor when he gets home. Doctor tells Michael that he has scarlet fever, and must stay at home for the next 3 months. When Michael is healthy again, he tells his mother that on the day I fell ill, a woman came to my aid. His mother tells him to thank her. He goes back to where he first met Hannah to express his gratitude for her help. Hannah doesn't seem interested but then asks him to escort her to work. She asked him to wait outside. As she changes her clothes, Michael peeks through the door to see her. Hannah notices him spying, then Michael runs away in shame. Since then, he has been silently observing her but hasn't had the courage to approach. A few days later, he returns to Hannah's apartment to apologize to her. Hannah asks him to bring some coal from the basement. When he returns with coal, his clothes and face have become dirty. Hannah tells him that he cannot go home in this condition. Hannah suggests bathing him. Hannah watches him silently. She takes her clothes off by herself and hugs Michael. She tells him that this is exactly what you wanted, that's why you've been interested in me for so long. And then they hug each other. As time goes on, Michael starts stopping by Hannah's house every day after school. After so many days, they had finally exchanged names. One day, Hannah asks Michael what he is studying at school. Michael says that he is learning Latin and German, and also suggests Hannah to read a poem that he finds interesting. But Hannah tells him that she would rather listen to him read the poem. She put forth the condition that Michael has to read her a poem every day, and then only she will hug him. Days went by, and Michael kept reading literature to Hannah. They start spending more time together and their bond grows stronger. Hannah and Michael are slowly but surely falling in love with each other. One day, Michael makes the decision to sell some of his collection of stamps, in order to fund a trip. For lunch, they visit a restaurant. After noticing the menu card, she tells Michael that she will eat whatever order Michael places. Later the waitress, on the other hand, believes Hannah is Michael's mother. Michael kisses Hannah in front of her to prove her wrong. Michael brings Hannah to a church after lunch. Hannah appreciates Michael for bringing her along and is glad to be there. Michael tells Hannah that he is writing a poem about her. But when Hannah asks him to read it to her, Michael says that it's not complete yet. The following day, Hannah is promoted by the tram company and is now going to work in the office. But she is not happy with the promotion and becomes upset. When Michael tries to read her another poem, Hannah stops him and starts fighting with Michael for no reason. Michael also gets angry, as it's his birthday and Hannah didn't even bother to ask him how he is. Michael expresses that he loves her, but Hannah pushes him off and slaps him. Michael notices that Hannah is upset. Then they hug each other at her apartment one last time. Soon after Michael returns to his school, Hannah vacates her apartment without informing Michael. Michael feels something isn't right and rushes to her apartment. He discovers she has left. Michael is heartbroken by this and has no idea why Hannah left him. 8 years later in 1966, Michael, now 23 years old, is studying law at Heidelberg Law School. As part of a special seminar taught by his professor, he takes Michael and all the other students with him to observe a trial of several women. These women were accused of letting 300 Jewish women die in a burning church, when they were SS guards on the death marches. Michael is shocked to discover that Hannah is a defendant. All his buried emotions emerge for Hannah and is unable to stop thinking about her. On the day of the trial, it is made public that Ilana Mather, a young Jewish survivor, has written a memoir detailing how she and her mother escaped the concentration camp. Hannah admits that she knew Auschwitz was an extermination camp, when she was questioned about it. She also acknowledges that she and the other SS guards would pick 10 prisoners at random and have them executed, in order to make room for the new ones and prevent overcrowding. Hannah would choose physically weak and less able-bodied prisoners, and send them to their deaths. When Ilana arrives at the court, she recognizes Hannah and the other guards from the extermination camp. Ilana also reveals that Hannah chose prisoners in a different way. She would pick a female prisoner at random, and ask her to read her a book in her office. After that, Hannah would send the prisoner to their death. Ilana's mother Rose reveals that when they were marching to Auschwitz, they decided to spend the night at a church. But suddenly, an aerial bombing raid by the Allied forces accidentally hit the church, where more than 300 prisoners were sleeping. Prisoners tried to flee the burning church, but were unsuccessful because all of the doors were locked. Despite having the power to let the prisoners escape by unlocking the exits, the SS guards, including Hannah, did nothing. Except for Ilana and her mother, who miraculously survived the fire, all the prisoners died that night. When Hannah is accused of being responsible for the incident, she strongly denies the accusation, saying that she and the other guards together decided not to open the doors. The other defendants later turn on Hannah and accuse her for writing the report authorizing the church incident. In order to demonstrate that Hannah was in fact in charge that night, the prosecutor even produces a document having her signature. Judge asks Hannah to provide a handwritten sample of her signature, to compare it to the signature of the document. Hannah, however, abruptly backs down and admits that she did sign the report. After watching everything, Michael discovers Hannah's biggest secret, that she is illiterate. She wanted to avoid the job promotion at the tram company that would have exposed her illiteracy, which is why she decided to join the SS. Michael approaches his professor, and says he knows something that will help one of the defendants. Michael is unsure of what to do, because the defendant is ashamed to share her secret. His professor tells him that if he has learned nothing from the past, then there is no point in having the seminar. Michael then goes to the prison to visit Hannah, but he then changes his mind and leaves the prison without seeing her. On the final day of the trial, Hannah is given a life sentence for her part in the church deaths. The remaining defendants have received sentences of 4 years and 3 months in prison. After earning his law degree, Michael finds success as a lawyer. He marries Mart, his classmate, and together they have a daughter whom they name Julia. However, Mart decides to leave him after a few years, because he continues to be emotionally distant. One day, Michael returns to his childhood home, and rediscovers his books and notes from the time of his affair with Hannah. He then makes the decision to record some of those works, and sends the cassettes and another tape recorder to Hannah in prison. Hannah is delighted to hear his voice and recognizes it right away. Michael keeps sending countless cassettes to Hannah, who listens to the recordings every day. One day, Hannah makes the decision to borrow a book from the prison library, as she wants to teach herself to read and write by following along with Michael's tapes. After a while, she begins writing to Michael and expresses her gratitude for sending her those audio tapes. As Hannah gains more literacy over time, she asks Michael to send more audio tapes. Michael continues to send audio tapes, but he never replies in writing to her. One day, Michael receives a call from the prison warden, letting him know that Hannah will soon be released due to her good behavior. The warden asks Michael to find Hannah a place to live and a job, because she doesn't have any family or other relatives. Michael decides to help her, and he then travels to the prison to see her. Hannah is glad to see him, but Michael seems a little distant. He tells her that he has arranged an apartment and a job for her. When Michael asks Hannah what she has learned from her past, Hannah replies that she never thought about what she did before becoming a SS guard. The dead are still dead, and it doesn't matter what she feels or thinks now. After Michael leaves, Hannah commits suicide by hanging herself in her cell. Michael learns of Hannah's passing when he gets to the prison on the day of her release. Hannah leaves a note to Michael and a tea tin with cash in it. In her will, she asks Michael to give her life savings to Ilana, because of her dreadful experiences in the concentration camp. Later, Michael travels to New York, where he meets Ilana. Michael confesses his past relationship with Hannah to her. He also reveals that Hannah was illiterate for most of her life. Ilana, however, rejects him and advises him to go to the theater if he is looking for the truth, claiming that there is nothing to be learned from the camps. Ilana declines to accept money but chooses to keep the tea tin, because it resembles the one she had before being sent to the concentration camps. Michael suggests donating the money to a Jewish welfare organization dealing with illiteracy. In the present day of 1995, Michael reunites with his daughter Julia, who is now 21. He drives her to the church that he and Hannah had visited during their bicycle tour. Michael then shows her Hannah's grave and begins telling her their story. So this was the story of the reader, which was released in 2008.
Make sure you subscribe to Short Movies and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this.